Welcome to the Family Office Success Podcast, where we explore the strategies, the insights, and the best practices that help families and their advisors build and manage successful family offices. I am your host, Christy Van Wright, and each episode we dive into the key elements of running a family office. Whether you're a family looking to structure your advisory team for long-term success, or you're a professional managing the complexities of a multi-generational enterprise. From financial oversight and operational efficiency to selecting the right advisors and creating a lasting legacy, this podcast is here to provide practical guidance and expert perspectives. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Family Office Success Podcast. Today, I am super excited to introduce Suzy Reidman to you. Suzy and I met not too long, maybe a couple of months ago, and had like the best conversation, and I have so enjoyed our chats and her ideas on how family interactions really travel with you throughout your lifetime and how you can really use those, and or how they can sometimes stick with you in not such a great way, and how to work through those processes. And so, Suzy, I feel like we just kind of had a connection from the beginning. So thank you so much for coming on and having the conversation with us today.
Thank you for having me. And I agree, the connection has been mutual and really enjoyable.
Love it. So I'm going to let you, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about your background and why/how you got to this point of running Family Wealth Dynamics. And then we'll jump in, but I think your story is really important to set up the rest of the conversation.
Okay, great. Well, then I'll start from the beginning. I'm from San Diego. I was in a family that had real estate assets, and that's what eventually got me into what I'm doing now. But the story is much slower. We moved up to Oregon when I was about 10, and from there throughout my 20s, I went to college and studied creative writing, and throughout my 20s I worked as a personal trainer, and in my late 20s inherited some income producing asset from my father while he was still alive. And that's what really sent me on this journey toward creating this business that I have now called Family Wealth Dynamics. When I inherited that property, I didn't know what to make of it or to make of myself within that. I my I wish that I had known then what I know now, all the questions that I would have asked my dad, because I'm sure he would have loved to share. He would have loved to see me as interested in the family money as I am now. However, yeah, at the time I just thought I have this income producing asset. I didn't earn it. I don't know that I'm allowed to use the income from it. I'm kind of I'm almost ashamed that I have it, though I'm also really grateful for it. So there were these contradicting emotions going on within me.
Yeah.
And for a few years, I just pretended that the money from the property the income that it was producing didn't exist. And it wasn't until I was about to get married that I looked at it and realized this could help us get into our first house. And rather than purchasing a house for my husband and me to live in, I ended up purchasing a single family investment rental up in the town where I live. And my husband and I lived on the same property, a separate house as my parents, to help care for my dad as he had Parkinson's and was um, going through that process. So that got me really into the world of real estate investing. And I spent most of my 30s really invested in real estate and understanding how I could take what I'd been given and grow it. Then so the real estate started, it had a lot of ups and downs, but it got pretty stable. And I realized I have more time and energy, and there's something more that I felt called to. And the process of the money transition in my family had caused some real rifts in relationships. And I felt like I we didn't have the help that we needed at the time when we needed it, and we didn't know what help even existed. So I thought, who better to bring something into the world than someone who's been through it? So that was where family wealth dynamics was birthed. And what I work with families and individuals that are navigating the interpersonal dynamics of family wealth.
I love that. So what does family wealth dynamics, I think for those that are listening or watching us today, that could that could go in a lot of directions. What you talked a little bit about, mentioned that there was this kind of caused a rift inside the family. Why did you name the company Family Wealth Dynamics? What does this term mean to you?
Yeah. Well, initially I called the company Given Not Earned, and it because that's what it meant to me. It was money that was given to me that I didn't earn, and that didn't go well. That didn't go well. A lot of people felt like it was a jab, and I realized that I needed to pivot so that people wouldn't be turned off by the name of my business. But the given not earned part of it is a big piece of it. There's
Yeah.
for individuals that have inherited money, there's this sense of I've been given so much and I didn't earn it. What do am I allowed to use it? What does this mean to me? Who am I if all that I've done in my life is because I've been given so
Yeah.
much?
For the you should still write that book and title it
Oh yeah.
that.
Given not earned.
Yes.
Okay.
I think a
Yeah,
lot
good
of
idea.
people feel that way, but it's not necessarily something that you would just go and say, I feel like I don't deserve what I've been given. I mean, that's a hard thing to take in and then figure out what do you do with that information. So, huge kudos to you for recognizing that and then figuring out a way through it. So is that really what Family Wealth Dynamics is about now? Is helping families to have inherited wealth find their path through that given, not earned process?
Yeah, yeah, there's two sides to it. So there's the individual side, which is working with inheritors, so of any generation, generation two, three, four, who have a lot in their life that they've been given and didn't directly earn, and helping them find what their purpose in life is within the context of family money. Like, can they use this step up to be something that they wouldn't have been able to be without it? Or is it really hindering them from making something of their own because they're afraid of losing what they've been given?
Yeah.
So there's this one-on-one coaching work that I do, and then the other wing is working with families that are navigating the relationships between all the personalities within the family and money. And I often say that money is like salt. That all families have these personalities within them, but then you add money to it, and they get really intensified. So that's I work with families trying to either mitigate the potential for fractured relationships when a death of a parent happens or when the money transition is happening,
Mhm.
or I also work with them as they're going through the transition and the relationships have already begun to be strained.
Interesting. So, I mean, what do you think happens? Well, I think you've probably seen and felt this personally, which is one of the reasons why I find this conversation so helpful. Is what happens if a family doesn't address these things that are happening? I mean, every family, it doesn't matter what socioeconomic level you come from, every family has personalities, some varying, for sure, and has these tension issues. But from your perspective, what happens when a family doesn't address this other side, the human side of the wealth? It's inherited or created, or you're a part of it. Do you have any thoughts about what that affects a person if these kinds of ideas are not addressed?
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of sibling relationships break or get really strained or get really messy. throughout the inheritance process. I think a lot of families think we have we're beyond worrying about money. Like we're so grateful for having this money. This is when both parents are alive, and then suddenly one parent, perhaps the wealth generator or the wealth holder, passes away, and suddenly strain between siblings and jealousy and competitiveness and uh, frustration that someone's getting something that they wanted and the
Right.
communication lines aren't open.
Right.
So I see a lot of that between siblings. And then I also see, this is kind of an interesting one, and I see it so consistently, is so oftentimes families are coming to me when one parent has died and then there's one parent left. And now these children, this next generation, are they're adults and they start taking on a parental role of the parent that's still alive.
Sure.
So they become very concerned about how the parent is spending money. I can say this myself. I do this with my mom, and she probably does not appreciate it at all. But I want to make sure that she's like, you know, doing the right thing by these assets that were left to her to steward.
Sure.
And then I also see kids being very concerned about their parents' relationships, the remaining parent, the romantic relationships they get involved with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is a real, for one, it is a very real thing. Ever you hear a lot about it now, where it's suddenly the parent child relationship is reversed, and
Yeah.
um, that, I mean, that in and of itself can be a challenge. And then you add siblings to it, and well, I'm taking the one taking care of mom, and um, well, I have another idea, and so you have like this relationships going this way, and then you have the child parent relationship. I mean, I feel like I hear about that a lot right now. I think it's fairly clear why a family would come to you if they're feeling this tension and they don't know how to necessarily work through it on their own, which makes, why would they necessarily? How do you work with a family in that position when there is this tension, and you're trying to keep this peace, and keep that those siblings together for the long term? How do you work
Yeah.
with those families?
Yeah. So I take them through a process of first meeting with each individual independently and hearing, this is usually via Zoom, hearing from each member of the family that is involved in this process individually or with their spouse if the grown child has a spouse. So I hear from everybody, everybody has a chance to share one on one. And then we do a family meeting that's facilitated, and it can be it can either be the family is having a reunion or something, a retreat, and so they have a place and just fly me in to facilitate the meetings. But the way that these meetings typically go is I start off with some games that are fun exercises that get the family to see each other outside of their family roles. So
Ah, yeah.
within a family, we're so used to seeing, like, I see my mom as my mom and she sees me as her daughter,
Hmm.
though I am now a grown woman. And siblings I see as I remember them as a child, even though they've grown in their own ways as well. So these exercises are designed to understand the other humans in your family as individuals uh, that have grown up and that have their own motivations and values that may be totally different from what you carry them to be, what you assume they are and expect they are from your past.
Right.
So we don't even start off with addressing conflict. We start off by just getting to know each other as if you're getting to know a new team of people, and trying to create some common ground and realizing, oh, you're really motivated by um, like doing what you can to get out in nature. I am too. That's so special. Like that we have this bond or volunteer work. So we create common ground through these exercises, and then that allows us to transition into the conflict that's going on with more understanding for each other, and it kind of dissipates some of the conflict before you even have to enter into it. So it's not as intense as it was perhaps when they first came into the meeting, because now they see their family members a little differently.
Right?
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. I mean, that again, going back to just a broader application, you know, when you're not with somebody and you aren't seeing those intentions every single day, whether it's business or personal, whatever it is, um, when you're in person and you're creating that common, or you're getting reminded that you have common ground, that it's like sometimes space and time remove us from that a little bit. So bringing everybody back together on the same page and reminding each other, no, we actually do like each other, probably love each
Yeah.
other, and we do like the same things. I think you're right. It feels like so often we build things up in our heads that, and then when you're in front of someone and you're hearing, oh, that no, they really do care for me. We just see things from a different lens.
Yeah. And
Um,
also when there's the understanding what motivates different people in your family member,
yeah, of
like sometimes we see the way a person behaves and see it only through our filter.
course.
But then when we have a chance to sit down with them and understand, there's these picture games that I use. So they get to select pictures of what motivates you, and there's images, and they get to share it. And the person listening would realize that this has nothing to do with what I thought it had to do with. They're not just being this way to annoy me the way that perhaps they were as kids, but they actually are motivated by something entirely different than what I'm motivated by. So no wonder we're looking at this problem and butting heads, because we have a different set of what motivates us in life.
Sure.
Yeah. I
Interesting.
guess, yeah, to finish to your answering your question of what the process looks like after we have a family meeting, and that could be spread over 1 or 2 days, depending on the size of the family. And then everybody goes home. Or after the initial motivation and values exercises, we do address the conflict, and that can get really heated. And I always make sure to end it. Some people think it's a little cheesy, but it's very effective. We end with going around and saying one thing we love about everybody at the table. And it's so amazing because it puts these people in a position of thinking of just having gone through a difficult conversation, and now, wait a second, what do I love about them? And they remember all that they love about this person that they're frustrated with. So that's where I always make sure that we end, whether on the first day or the second day, so that everyone's going home with a good taste in their mouth. Even if it was difficult, there's something positive in their mind they're leaving with.
Right.
And then a few weeks later, I work one on one with them all again.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of that bookend concept. You start with good, you talk about the hard stuff, and then you bookend it with something else that's good. Because
Yeah.
I think there's research, correct me if I'm wrong, that's like you remember more of the last interaction that you had with somebody than you do the previous. Like that's what your mind holds on to. And
Uh-huh.
so if it's a positive interaction on any level, you leave with a little different feeling than we just had a big fight and I'm going to hold on to that big fight
Yeah.
of thought process.
Oh, that reminds me, exactly what you're saying is exactly right. And my dad, we grew up with horses, and my dad was a horse trainer. So he always would, when working with the horses, he would always leave them on a good note. Some like in training a horse to do something that they're not inclined to do, like get in a trailer or
Hmm.
um, go a place that they're scared to go, or walk on a tarp. Um, he would always make sure that they left on a good note, even if it wasn't accomplishing the entire uh, thing that my dad wanted them to do. That perhaps the horse wouldn't get in the trailer, but the last thing he did was put his foot in the trailer calmly. That's the perfect place to end.
Mm.
And so same thing with working with families. There's a positive place to end, and that's what you remember. So with the horses, that's the last thing they'll remember. And when they come into their next training session, they'll know that this was a good experience
Right.
instead of an experience that felt traumatic to them.
Yeah. There's so many things that we can, so many things we can learn, and again, applications. I
Yeah.
find that I find all kinds of nuggets in the most random places. Usually when I'm gardening or, working with
Oh yeah. So many metaphors in gardening.
so many, so many.
Yeah.
But the same in horse training. I mean, so that's I love that your dad did that. So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Thank you.
So how would, if a family is coming in and they are preparing for kind of this generational transition for all the reasons that happens,
Mhm.
what what are some of the things that you would go in and work with that family on to feel a little more prepared? Now, obviously, this is a little more forethought. This is advance of the transition, but getting ready for that. What are the things that you would come in and work with a family on to help ease that transition? Because let's face it, that's probably not going to be the favorite time in anybody in that family's life when that transition is happening. So how do you come in and work with that family and get them as prepared as they can be to walk through um, that transition period and then hopefully come out stronger on the other side?
Mm. Yeah. It's it's not easy for when you're going through this, it's usually because of death of a parent, so everybody's emotions are running high.
Yeah.
But if a family comes while both parents are still healthy and they're trying to prepare their grown children for the most successful transition of the wealth, that would be the ideal time to bring someone like myself in,
Yeah.
because then we can address the problems before they even become problems. So it's not so much like a mediation as it is a getting to know you. So similar to the median that I described before, these would be conversations where everybody gets to know what's important to each other. The conversation is opened now to, like, what is it in your life that is meaningful? What is it in your life that's meaningful? And to the parents, what's the expectation around this money? Is it meant for certain things? So just so everybody actually understands and is on the same page.
Yeah.
So often that's not clarified, and that's where, like for me, when I inherited the property, I didn't know what was expected of me. I thought, like, is this for me to spend? Is it for me to grow? Is it for me to
All right.
hide in a treasure chest and never touch? Like, what is it that I'm supposed to do? So if parents can bring these conversations up with their adult children before the intensity of emotions around death come up, it can be so much easier for the kids to navigate the transition
Mm.
when the emotions do get higher.
And if I heard you correctly, it's really when both wealth generators are available to
Hmm.
to walk to give context and to walk the family through what those expectations are. I mean, it absolutely makes sense that you genuinely didn't know what this was for and how you could use it and what you could do with it. I mean, it makes so much sense. So, from your perspective, if a family can come and you can help them maybe even have those conversations, is that fair?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so many of these things are spelled out in trusts. And I think this is where a lot of parents think, well, I have my estate plan set up, I have the trust set up, the
They'll take
trustee
care of
can
it.
inform the children. Yeah.
Right.
But that just leaves out the human element of it and the personalities.
Mm.
No grown child wants to go through and read a trust to have all the directions spelled out and the qualifications around spending the money. It's so much more effective there if the human element is addressed and communication can happen before it's forced to happen legally.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Well, and trusts aren't meant to give context.
right.
They're not. They're not. I mean, even if I've seen families do side letters to try and
Yeah,
explain, but even that, there's only so much context that you can give someone in writing versus mom and dad having a conversation of this is why we did this. This is what we intend, what we want for you, and
hmm,
intend for this money to, or this wealth to help you with.
yeah,
Some of those things you just can't, as much as you try, putting it on paper is better than nothing at all, and certainly better than just handing a trust document over. But
yeah,
it's those it's those details and seeing face to face, getting that visual communication, that you just
yeah.
get through the written word.
And
Um,
allowing a place for the kids, the grown kids, to ask questions too, and getting the feedback back and forth.
yeah,
I think that parents get afraid that if they involve their adult children in this, that the adult kids might feel too much of a sense of ownership or entitlement over it. And so they may avoid doing that because they want it to be very clear that this isn't your money yet. So don't think it is.
right,
And
right. You still need to
at the
make your way,
same, yeah, that's what they want. All the parents want us to flourish in our own regard.
of
But
course.
the fact of the matter is their success will be passed on to the kids, and that does impact their lives. So how do you start addressing it so that the kids can be the most successful with that, in that it can allow them to flourish?
Yeah,
So I think that starting the conversation early and allowing there to be a safe space for everybody to have the conversation that nobody it feels comfortable having,
right,
and just having it,
right,
having it, whether it's with a facilitator or just mom and dad uh, leading the conversation. Either way, it's so much better than nothing.
right. Do you think, it feels to me like a lot of families, mom and dad, the wealth creators, they build up in their mind that how that conversation is going to go, and that scares them a little bit. Like you said,
Mm,
they don't want the kids to think that this is money that they have access to now, or I don't have to do anything because I'm going to inherit this wealth.
yeah,
Certainly, as you said, there are ways to have a conversation like that, to make it clear the intent, and that the intent is not it's right now, it's down the road. um I mean, do you think a lot of people build this conversation up in their mind, and that's why they don't even want to try? I mean, you've made a very compelling argument here for, or thesis or statement, of why you should have these conversations. So if somebody's listening and they're in that position of, I don't really want to have this conversation with the kids because, you insert concern here kind of thing. um do you feel like more conversations actually go better than how they thought it was going to go in the beginning from your facilitations that you've done?
mm. There, well, they can they can go either way, and I think that's such a good point that parents are trying their best to do what's best for their kids, and oftentimes, I know as a parent, I am always trying to do what's best for my son, and I probably go the wrong direction entirely sometimes in with the best heart. Um, I have talked to a whole lot of wealth creating generation that are very worried that the wealth that they've created is going to disable their children, and how do they approach it in a way so that the kid will still flourish. That seems to be the main concern that parents have.
Mhm.
How do I make sure that my wealth doesn't destroy my kids and allows them to become more of who they're meant to be,
Mm-hmm.
but doesn't destroy them? And how do I know? And I think that there's a real personality element in every kid being different. And so the parents need to think about each individual kid and when is the right time to talk to child first child versus the second child. Look at what they're doing in their lives and how responsible they are, and it's not just a blanket approach that works for everybody. However, I do think if generational wealth is the goal, um, when the kids are adults having family conversations around this, I do think facilitated can really help the family not get into a communication pattern of arguing or like
Sure.
one person being silent and the other person carrying the entire conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So I, regardless of the personalities of the kids, I think that communicating openly, maybe reserving some information like numbers is fine, but still communicating as openly as possible
Yeah.
with them when they start to like when they start becoming interested or even before they become interested, just so that they know what's going on in their family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think if a because there are going to be some families who just say, nope, gonna let it work itself out for whatever reason. Um, do you think if do you get would you get more context if they at least recorded themselves talking about it? Like I did a video and saved it in the family database or the family library. Do you think that I mean, obviously it's not going to replace an actual conversation where you can have questions and answers. Um,
Hmm.
but do you think that is at least a step up from certainly just a trust document or even a trust document plus a side letter? Do you think that helps? Or
Oh yeah, I think that that's a great idea. Any documentation is better than no documentation. In a video nowadays, that I sound older than I am maybe, but nowadays can do videos and leave them online for the kids to access at some point, like through Josh Cantor's platform,
yes, leaf planner.
Leaf Planner. But yeah, that's I think the way that he has it set up is really allows in successive generations to see what the intent is in this
Yeah.
comprehensive platform. But yeah, video is better than no video. A letter is better than no letter. I think back if could rewatch at different times of my life a video of my dad telling me about his journey, my mom and dad about their journey together. My dad's side had the created the wealth and how it came to be, what it's meant to support, what it's not meant to support, and
Yeah.
actually hearing it from him, that would be so valuable. And especially as children grow,
Yeah.
it means something different at every different stage of life, and they can apply it or learn from it in a way that they couldn't before. So I
Yeah.
think a video is a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you hear things at different points in your life, right? Because you're only ever looking or hearing something through your filter in that moment. No, I mean everybody.
Hmm.
That's just how we are. And so, if you could have had your dad's words giving you information, there's things you might not have heard when you were younger and that you
Yeah.
hear now, and there might be things that actually mean something a little bit different to you in 20 or 30 years.
It's like a gift that can keep on giving throughout the years and somehow makes them still seem alive and their wishes are being
Yeah.
carried on.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm gonna take us to kind of a wrap up here. What are the top uh, what's your top piece of advice, or your top couple of things that if a family has made it to this point in our podcast, what are the things that you would want them to hear from you, having gone through this, having not had been able or had the opportunity to have that question and answer conversation with your dad? What are the things that you would want a family to hear today that could give them a different outcome either now or in the future?
Mm. I would say start talking to them earlier than you think you should, and don't wait until it's too late. And don't rely on your estate plan to communicate for you. Like, be human in your approach to this and know that the wealth that you've created will impact your kids, and consider how you want it to impact them and be open to communicating that to them. And I also think that um, that would be money well spent if you set up an annual meeting that's with your family to discuss these things, and you bring in a facilitator or someone that can address this for you.
Yeah.
Think about the long-term benefits of that and how much it could prepare your kids for success versus just reading an estate plan and wondering what they're supposed to do with that.
Right. Okay. I think that is great advice, and I sincerely hope that whoever is listening this podcast or watching this video, I hope that if you heard nothing else, that you heard how important it is to really have conversations with your kids, and that there is a way to do it where they understand that this money is not for them today, and but give them the ability to interact with you about it. And it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be as big and scary as it may seem on the front end, or in your mind, but it could be the difference of your daughter going through the first however many years not understanding why this is happening or what to do with it, and having that confusion versus hitting the ground running and understanding what you wanted for them. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
love it.
Thank
Suzy,
you.
thank you very much for joining us today. Obviously, I love talking with you and hearing your perspective on things. So, very much appreciated. And I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. Suzy, where can people find you if they would like to reach out or talk to you about how to facilitate these conversations?
Yeah. I'm on LinkedIn as Suzanne Reidman, and also my website is Family Wealth Dynamics. Not given, not earned anymore, but familywealthdynamics.com. And I'm happy to, my email is Suzy at Family Wealth Dynamics. So I'd love to talk with anybody that has any questions, and they have lots of resources I can point people toward to help get them started.
Awesome. Love it. And I will make sure that all of your contact information is also linked in the show notes. So if anyone wants to reach you from there, head over to the notes and you can find all of Suzy's contact information at that point. So, Suzy, thank you again. It's been lovely chatting with you, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me today on the Family Office Success Podcast. I hope you found this conversation insightful and valuable as you navigate the complexities of family office services. If you're looking for more ideas or resources, or want to explore how we can support your family office or your family through services and training and strategy, connect with me on LinkedIn or visit our website at whiteriverconsultants.com, and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter for updates and expert insights. And if you're ready to take your family office to the next level, consider joining our mastermind, where we can help you manage that chaos and create better outcomes for the families you serve. Until next time, I'm Christy Van Wright, and this has been the Family Office Success Podcast. Take care and keep building for the future.